Okay, so after you've come up to your navigation window, you've used the plus sign, added a tool link, called it Collaborate or something similar. The type is the Collaborate Schedule Manager right here, and then made it available to your users, and then you had it appear here, and then you dragged it into position. Once you have the Collaborate Sessions link, you do still have to actually build the Collaborate Room yourself. They're not going to be created for you. Luckily, making a Collaborate Room is very easy. So let's go ahead and just show you how simple it is. Once you have your Collaborate schedule link, go ahead and click on it. And you're going to come to a new page called Blackboard Collaborate. Now, as the instructor or TA, you're going to see this Schedule a Session button, but your students will not. The students in the course are only going to see what's down here under Scheduled Sessions and Recordings. So we're going to go ahead and make a new session. And by default, it's going to have your course name as the session name. And you can change that if you want to. The start time is going to be, when does your course actually begin? So in this example, our course begins at 6:30. So here's our date, our calendar. And the first day from today is going to be the 27th. Now, this top bar is for setting the hour. So you have from midnight to 11 p.m. And ours begins at 6:30. And the bottom bar is for the minute. And you can only choose 15-minute intervals. So we're going to set our start time to 6:30. Now I'm not doing 6:15 or 6:10 because I can set the early entry separately. So we have our start time, the 27th at 6:30, hit done. And it's going to end, in this case the course is going to run until 8:30. So again, 27th, and then at 8. So hour started on the top, minute 1 on the bottom, so 8:30. Now I'm going to set this to go until 8:45, so it gives us a 15-minute time span in case any issues delay the beginning of class. You don't have to use it, it's purely optional, but it's nice to have. And I'm going to go ahead and choose Done. Now the reason my end time goes over, but my start time does not, is because right down here we have a section for early session entry. So this is where I'm going to set how early I want to enable students to log in. So we can do it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, doesn't really matter per se. I'm going to go with 30 for now. And because this course is going to be a reoccurring course, I'm going to go to this button here for repeat and click on On. Once I do, we now have this button that appears. Now we're going to repeat this weekly, and it's going to go every Tuesday and then Thursday. So by clicking on these buttons here, you're going to tell the Collaborate session what days it should occur. And I generally don't use the end setting for occurrences. Instead, I have it based on the date. So since classes end the final week of December, which is, I want to say December 3rd or December 4th, I'm going to have it end the week after that. So we're going to go for December 11th. And your institution is going to be different. So, whenever classes start, whenever classes end, I usually have the shell accessible for a week afterwards. So we'll go with the 13th. And so everything here is set. Now for room options, under session type, course, by default you're going to always keep this. The only time you would choose shared, and if you click on shared you can click on this little window here to add additional courses. You would do this if you're creating a Collaborate room for your office hours. So you don't want to have to recreate your office hours in every single course. Here you just make one Collaborate session called Office Hours, and you share it across all of your courses. I'm not doing that, so I'm just going to keep it to the default for course. And at any time, you have these little information icons, which if I mouse over them, they're going to give me a very short tooltip about what this setting is for. So for session type, default course, almost always going to be fine. Same for teleconference options. Built in, again, default is almost always going to be fine. Now under room attributes, the recording mode, I like to keep it set to manual. and I'll show you how to record things once we actually open up the Collaborate scheduler. But what's really important is this setting here for maximum simultaneous talkers. Now at the very least you should have it set to 2, because what happens with 1 is only one person can talk at a time. And while that one person has their microphone active, nobody else can voice. So if you have someone who's forgetting to turn their mic off, they're essentially shutting down the entire conversation and voice, and that's not good. So I usually keep this at 2 or 3, but still have students be mindful that, hey, if you're not talking, turn your microphone off. But having this set to 3 and not 1 will alleviate those times when they forget to do that. Let's be honest, we all forget occasionally. The maximum cameras isn't quite as important. You can go up to 6, and this basically says how many people or how many students can share their webcam at any one time. If you have the maximum enabled and you've got more than 6, then the last 6 who talked would be the ones who would appear in your video screen. So I usually have this set to 2 for default. You might differ. Really, the most important setting here is going to be the maximum talkers. This one right here. Aside from that, all of these settings can be left as is for default. For preloading content, if you're going to be attaching a PowerPoint or a movie to your Collaborate session, you can load that here. But I would actually refrain from doing so. I would instead upload that to your course materials folder instead. So usually you don't want to use this preload content option unless someone's made a Blackboard course room for you and you're going to be using it as a guest. So again, by default, all of these settings are fine except for the maximum number of talkers. Do be aware of that and how that will change how your course can run. Under Grade Center integration, we don't usually use it. If you turn it on, you can award points for attendance. And what you'll see in the Grade Center is a column for every single Collaborate session. And then they'll get 0 points for attending or X number of points for showing up. And we don't usually have this turned on, so I'm going to leave it off for now. Then roles and access. This is where you can add a student or a TA as a moderator. And you can always do this after the fact once they're in Collaborate. So don't feel like you have to do this now. I'm just showing you these options as they exist so that when you make your own room, you know everything that's available to you as far as customizing this room goes. And you can change any of these settings on the fly after you've made your room. But you're not going to notice the change if you're in the Collaborate room until you close Collaborate and then log back in. So if you're going to change something while the session is going on, do be aware that they have to close the session and then re-log in again to see the change take place. So let's see, everything looks fine. We've got our repetitions weekly, Tuesdays and Thursdays, from 6 to 8:45 with a early session of half an hour. It's going to be just a course, built-in teleconference, attributes here, everything is good to go. So now let's go ahead and save it. Oh, really? Of course we can do this. Let's try again. Resend. This is always fun when your Blackboard server crashes on you. So hopefully it'll kick in here in just a second. Okay, and after some poking and prodding, it finally went through. So I did not have to recreate this session. I just kept clicking retry until it loaded up. So now, here are all my sessions for each of the days for the rest of the semester. And if you move over any of these titles, you're going to see this little circle here that you can click on. And again, you can edit the session, or you can edit the series, you can delete the session, or invite guests. Now by default, the invite guest option is checked. And this is important because if you want to have somebody as a guest speaker, you can do that. Likewise, if a student enrolls late and they can't see the Collaborate Room scheduler, or they're having a hard time finding it, you can just give them the guest link directly right here, and they can log into your course. And so you can get that guest link for any of these courses simply by clicking on the title and the list, and then going to the guest URL tab right here. It also shows you the moderator phone number and then the moderator PIN number, and then the phone number and the participant PIN number. So the participant PIN number, or the phone number, is going to be long distance. So do make sure that they are aware of their phone plan, that they intend to use the audio bridge. And they might do this if they're having a hard time hearing you or you're having a hard time hearing them. Sometimes if you're just doing a lecture with not many PowerPoints, it might be easier for them on lower bandwidth to just use the phone, and they'll have a better experience that way. But if they are going to use the phone, they do have to use this obnoxiously long PIN number. And that will be important to enter in exactly, or it's not going to work. Now, we're not going to be able to actually join our Collaborate session because it hasn't begun yet. So what you would see then, once our room unlocks at August 27th, 6:30, with a half-hour early preview, so in this case 6 p.m., when we click on our link here, our join, or when we click on the session title in the schedule manager, what we would see is a giant join room button right here that you would click on. And if this is your first time running a Collaborate course on your computer, when you click that button, it will tell you to download a Collaborate installer. And it's about 40 megabytes. And this installer basically tells your computer, what do I do when I try to open a .collab file? And so after you install the Collaborate installer, you do not have to reload the screen. Simply click on the Join Room button again, and then click on, and then actually join the room, and then it will load Collaborate in the screen here. And I'll show you how that works in a separate video.